We're often told that in the wake of a disaster, the market is the ultimate healer. When a hurricane hits, when a war devastates an infrastructure, or when a pandemic locks down the globe, the rhetoric is always the same. We need to rebuild. But who does the rebuilding? And why does it seem that, for some, the crisis isn't a tragedy, it's an opportunity? Today, let's look at disaster capitalism. The term disaster capitalism was popularized by the author Naomi Klein. It describes a specific strategy, waiting for a crisis, or creating one, to push through policies that would be rejected in normal times. Think of it as a shock to the system, a shock doctrine. People are scared, the government is panicked, and the public is looking for anyone to provide stability. That's when the corporate sector steps in, often with a shocking price tag. Let's look at a concrete example. New Orleans, 2005. Hurricane Katrina destroyed the city's infrastructure, including the public school system. Before the storm, the city had a standard public school district. After the storm, while the people were still displaced, the state didn't just rebuild the schools. They abolished the district entirely. They replaced it with a system of charter schools, firing thousands of experienced unionized teachers and replacing them with a privatized, for-profit workforce. This was a premeditated move to bypass the democratic process and install a model that favored investors over students. This is the blueprint. But if natural disasters are the accidental market, war is the ultimate manufactured business opportunity. Take the 2003 invasion of Iraq. As the bombs fell and the country's infrastructure was decimated, a new kind of reconstruction began. It wasn't led by humanitarian relief organizations, but by massive private military and engineering contractors, most famously Halliburton and its subsidiary Kellogg, Brown & Root. Dick Cheney ran Halliburton until 2000, when he resigned to run for vice president. The invasion of Iraq began in 2003. Through multi-billion-dollar, no-bid contracts, these corporations took over essential functions, feeding troops, building bases, and managing oil infrastructure. The incentive here is flipped. In a public reconstruction effort, the goal is usually to stabilize the country as quickly as possible. In a corporate reconstruction effort, stabilization is bad for the bottom line. As long as the conflict persists, the contracts remain. The flow of taxpayer money continues, and the profit margins grow. It is a system that creates a perverse incentive to prolong the very instability that destroys human lives. So how does this machine keep turning? It usually follows a three-step cycle. The crisis. A vacuum is created by catastrophe or conflict. The contract. The state, claiming it lacks the resources to rebuild, hands massive, no-bid contracts to private corporations. The extraction. Those corporations move in, strip away regulations, and turn essential services into profit-generating products. Once the reconstruction is done, the public is often left with worse services at a higher cost, and the taxpayer is left with the bill. Why is this a problem for human health and society? Because the capitalist model requires growth and profit, but disasters require stability and resilience. When a private company is tasked with disaster relief, their duty is to their shareholders, not to the victims. If it's cheaper to build a subpar levee or rely on precarious supply lines in a war zone, a profit-driven entity will choose the path of lower cost, not higher safety. Disaster capitalism doesn't just exploit the tragedy, it creates a feedback loop where the vulnerability of the population becomes a permanent commodity. Is there another way? Of course. Instead of waiting for private interests to save us, societies could invest in community sovereignty, strengthening public infrastructure before the disaster hits. Mutual aid networks, community-owned utilities, and transparent public planning are the antithesis of the vulture-like tactics of disaster capitalism. The next time you see a corporation stepping up to fix a crisis, ask yourself, are they building a better future, or are they just securing their next quarterly profit?